Well, hello and welcome to the Ramon Foster Show, brought to you by the Get Go Cafe and Market, where they're open 24/7 with hot, fresh food. Ramon, what's going on?
Man, not a lot. I'm still in my workout gear and everything, but you know what? There's no rest for the week, man. I'm here and ready to go.
That's the attitude. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. We got a lot to cover this week, and we're going to start off with the Super Bowl. Where else? Because that's kind of the point of everything that we talk about. It's so funny to me, Ron, how always the dialogue seems to flip right away to the next thing. You know?
It does.
Here are the odds for next year's Super Bowl champion. Well, hang on a second. These guys are still celebrating.
I know we hadn't had a chance to actually see them at Disney World, Disneyland, whichever one they're at. I think Disneyland if they're in L.A. We hadn't, saw Cooper Kupp get his vehicle. None of those things, and it's already like next season on the combine and the draft and the mock drafts, and it's nonstop. It really is. It's almost like, yeah, you got it. Now let's move on. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, let's not move on. Let's go over a couple of things first. The Rams weren't exactly super impressive, to say the least, but they got it done when they needed to. And you mentioned Kupp. Are you okay with Kupp getting MVP over Aaron Donald? Let's start with that.
I know the crowd I'm talking to. I know the crowd that I'm talking to, and I mean Pitt.
No. I get that.
I know, and I'll say this: if Aaron Donald had have got it, it'd have been okay. But Cooper Kupp being in a situation where they needed more, I think, from him because that offense had gotten stagnant. And it was almost to the point when OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., went out. I think everybody watching, I'm sure you was in that situation too. Where's the offense? Where's the offense? What are they going to do? The defense was holding their own, but you needed somebody to step up. And I'm sitting on my back patio watching the game. I'm thinking to myself, where's Cooper Kupp? And then he shows up, and you see why he had the triple crown as far as receiving go this year, receiving yards, receptions, and yards. Why not go to that guy? And I got to give it up for Matthew Stafford too. He battled, he found his guy, he made ways to get him the ball, and they capitalized on him. And I thought it was a really good testament of what it means to be, if not the best wide receiver in the world, one of the best in the world, man. He showed up and showed out, and the way he worked the NFL punching bag, Eli Apple, it was only right,
Eli. Oh, no.
He worked them.
Can we blow taps in the background here for poor Eli?
Oh, my gosh. But he did what he was supposed to do. He used his talent, his skill set, and as Coach Tom liked to say, he treated them as such, man.
And I like the fact that that he gets rewarded in the same spirit that I liked Santonio Holmes getting MVP. Even though Ben was the one making the passes, even though Ben was the one that made the prettiest pass in franchise history to win the championship, because there comes a point for an offense where you just say, that's got to be our guy.
Yeah.
And that's, like you said, once OBJ goes out, the Rams had no choice. But you know what? The Bengals know that.
Yeah.
And they still couldn't stop him. Not them.
No.
Him.
And you know what? Everybody's been a part, whether you're a fan, whether you're a teammate or on the team, of watching a game like that or being in a game like that. And you're saying to yourself, somebody make a play. I don't know where it's going to come at. And if we're talking about, does AD deserve the MVP also? Well, it was him that needed to make a play too. And his coach said it on the sideline after seeing, the mic'd up is AD's going to make a play. And I'm just like, well, yeah, that reminds me so much, man. We speak about like special players. There's a difference in like, I was good. Might have been pretty good too, okay? But then there's special. There's gold jacket special. There's, whether it's league MVP special. And that's what you saw from Aaron Donald. And I think you got to tip your hat and say that's what you saw from Cooper Kupp, too. He became special. Odell Beckham was going to be, I feel like, in my opinion, the focal point of that game. And it was good on Cooper Kupp to not, have jealousy towards it or envy. He just continued to play his game. Odell was really shaking up.
Ego-free. Dude is ego-free.
Ego-free. So to see him become a hero towards the latter part of that game and work that secondary, and I'll give it to him, Cincinnati secondary is not a bad secondary. They're pretty good. And he worked them pretty well and made the catches and got Yak when he caught the ball on that one no-look pass from Stafford, I thought it was fitting. I wasn't mad Cooper Kupp got it. I thought it was kind of weird they didn't announce it immediately after the game, and here's your Super Bowl MVP. They kind of just put the Winter Olympics on.
Yeah, well, wonder why. It's the first time anybody would have seen the Olympics this particular year. I also have to ask you about your deep, heartfelt, emotional reaction to seeing the Bengals lose.
Oh, my God.
Tough, huh?
Yes, okay. I'm going to say it again.
Go away, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't go away. Screw them, okay? Like, go to the pit of misery. If you're good, fine. I'm okay with that. Like, everybody's saying, Cincinnati will be back. And truth be told, they might be back. You know who else thought that? I did in my second year with Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
It's hard to get to it. And I think there's been reports that saying Green Bay is going to buy into what the Rams did. They're going to go because they have a nice nucleus of players, a team. If Aaron Rodgers does come back, they're going to buy in and go get whatever they need to get another championship.
The all-in approach.
Yeah. The all-in approach. So it's harder than you think, and we all jump to conclusions to say they'll be back. But they're so early in their career to where that team is understanding what success is. And also with that comes a bigger bullseye. Cincinnati can't just walk in the stadiums anymore. Teams want to beat them. So it's going to be a matter, honestly, of how they handle being front runners. They said time and time again in the pre-game just interviews and the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl that, look, they don't want to be the underdog. Well, you better walk well with that big target on your back, too, because I know with us being front runners like that for years.
Single week.
There's no off week.
Nope.
Absolutely none. So, Joe, carry them if you are, but I had a grand laugh, okay? Screw Cincy. I'll think again. Cleveland and Baltimore, too.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, that smooth segue, we're going to take it into our first break. When we come back on the Ramon Foster Show, we're going to talk about some of those odds that have already been set out there in Las Vegas for next year. Welcome back to the Ramon Foster Show, brought to you by the Get-Go Cafe and Market. And Ramon, it took only about 20 seconds from the clock hitting 0 at the Super Bowl, as I'd mentioned earlier, for the odds makers to come out with what's ahead for next year. And not surprisingly, I guess the top two teams are the Chiefs and the Bills, even though they're both in the AFC and even though the NFC just won the Super Bowl. We'll get into that in a second. But the Pittsburgh Steelers,
I saw it,
were listed at 60-1 odds to win the Super Bowl, the 8th worst odds of any team in the league. Ramon, this team would have to suck to be the 8th worst team in the NFL. There's no other way around that. Yeah. How do you match up those concepts? Like a team that has T.J. Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick and Cam Hayward, and how do you think that could be possible? Who's thinking this and why?
The 8th worst odds. DK, is because you don't have a bona fide quarterback
yet. That's it. It's just quarterback.
It's quarterback. And the reason those two AFC teams, the Bills and the Chiefs, are number ones because they do have one. It's been, the conversation that nobody's had a bigger leap than Josh Allen as far as his quarterbacking play. And you expect him to get better. And Mahomes is always going to push the envelope on anybody that's in the AFC. He actually has an offensive line that's going to they'll be together for an extra year. Although I think Orlando Brown is up, I got a feeling they're gonna sign him back because they don't have a high enough draft pick to go get a lottery pick of a left tackle. I'd say he'd be back there. Pittsburgh being in a situation, we said it for months. At least I've just been alluding to it with my family. I was like, hey, babe, we're about to go to the pit of misery for a little while, okay? And that's okay because we've had a really good run. A thing is about that defense. When you haven't Cam, you have TJ, Defensive Player of the Year. By the way, congratulations to him again on that. You can't understate that at all. But you have that defense. Thing is, though, you can wear a defense down with as high powered as these offenses are. Think about, I talk crap about Cincinnati, but they do have a really good offense. Okay? Cleveland has some tools to where at least if they're smart enough this year with the running game, they can run well and keep Baker within a box of where you need him to operate in. And then again, you go to Lamar. Lamar, you feel like at least they missed the playoffs this year. They will have a bounce back year, is what I'd say. At least they're going to be competitive. That's just the North. Okay, and then you got to go on a road, and there's a lot of inexperience still with the offensive line. You got to going to potentially miss Juju and James Washington. And then you got to wonder, is Chase Claypool going to step up and be a leader? When I say leader and Chase Claypool, those two words don't really go the same right now from what he's shown us.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got to be performance with him.
It's got to be performance. And then you got a young Najee, and then we got to figure out what's going on with Deontay, if they're going to retain him. And, so there's a lot of questions. The surefire things on that offense is Pat Freiermuth and friggin' Deontay.
And Najee. Yeah.
And Najee. Three. Those three right there. Those are the sure things you have on that offense. I love my guys, of course, that I know that are still there. But this is tough sledding when it comes down to saying Pittsburgh is going to win the AFC North. There's, and that's okay because what happened the last time they were in this situation.
But there's a difference between saying they won't win the division and saying that they'll outright suck. And that's what you have when you're talking about the 8th worst team in football. And by the way, their odds were lower than that of any AFC North team. So they're also predicting a last place finish for the Steelers. These are not things that happen.
DK. Okay? This is a very strong conversation because we're early into the offseason. We got to see what moves are going to be made. But if we go off just recent history of when the season ended, unless Matt Canada brings some magical dust to get him to get this offense to where it's not just what is this out on the field, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and then you start making plays. So we question that. We also question the fact that who's going to be at quarterback. Mason, Haskin, Dobbs. Do you go trade for a guy like Carson Wentz? No, there's a bunch of scenarios out there. So the amount of uncertainty is there. And this is the other part of it is me as a former player, I look at this team and say they're going to compete. Yes, they are, but there's only so much you can do when you're going to have this much turnover. Now, I don't know if competing means 8 and 9. 9 and 8. Are they 2 games below 500? What's a good season? But the other side of this, though, is if this is just a one shot, where they're not as great as you need them to be to go get a quarterback, because we know that's what moved the ticker, DK. That's what's kept us so warm at night for 20 years in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that you've had a quarterback, and then what is this offense going to look like? Like I'm kind of hesitant on Canada because I'm thinking to myself, did he cater to what Ben does well? It might not have been great, but did he cater to it? And if he didn't, what else does he have in his bag that's going to say, yes, this team is going to compete week in and week out? We don't know. So I think it's a fair assessment to say, they have the 8th worst odds to win the Super Bowl. I tell you, if you got a little extra change on the side and want to put it on the Pittsburgh Steelers, that might not be a bad bet to pull off.
Yeah, I guess the thing that gets me is that if you're going to say, as people did throughout this past season, not without cause, that Pittsburgh's quarterbacking play was bad, and then the season ends and you predict that they're going to be 10 times worse because of quarterbacking play, it doesn't really add up for me. One of the things that I'm struck by, this is going to sound like it's unrelated, but it isn't. Every time Ben would roll out to his right, it was a slam dunk completion. Now, he might have only done it like 10 times the whole season. Okay. But these were designed rollouts. They weren't forced rollouts. Okay. Get the ball, get out there. He'd look upfield. There were 2 or 3 open targets for whatever reason that were never open whenever he would just have a drop back, and he'd hit them. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, maybe, and I'm a hard time giving this coordinator the benefit of the doubt, maybe if this coordinator had someone who could do that sort of thing on a regular basis, they don't have to be Lamar, but just do that sort of thing and get out there, maybe we'll see something different. I don't know. I don't know.
Which is why I say I'm kind of hesitant to see what this offense is going to look like without Ben, meaning a different quarterback. Of course, everybody's seen, Tomlin and Colbert and Canada flirting with Malik Willis. Or Wills. Is it Willis?
It's
from
Willis.
Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
From Liberty. And this is the other part of it, too, is we got to say this out front. It's not going to be an offense, if that's who they're going after, that you're used to seeing. Can Pittsburgh as a whole honestly handle that, the fan base? And I know all thing cures itself if you're winning, but that's the part of like seeing a non-traditional, smash and dash offense that might not be it, where you're downhill and running counter zone and inside zone. If that's what Canada is bringing to the Steelers to operate in this new NFL, then you got to be okay with it also. But the flirting with Malik Willis from Liberty says a whole lot about where they want to go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Art Rooney himself said that they were talking about mobile quarterbacks, and Mike Tomlin's talking about mobile quarterbacks. That's where the game is heading and so forth. So we'll see how all that goes. When we come back, the only position that really matters on a football field is the offensive line, I'm told. And we will discuss that after this break. Welcome back to the Ramon Foster Show, brought to you by the Get Go Cafe and Market. And Moan, the offensive line does finally have a new coach in Pat Meyer. It'll be the fourth new offensive line coach in as many years. Okay,
including an interim is 5.
Including the interim guy for a couple weeks.
He left to go to Chicago.
Morgan was taken away by the Bears, and here we are. Pat Meyer has been a coach for 20 years. He's been in the National Football League for 9 years, all in the same role, offensive line. He's had some successes. He's had some failures, mostly failures of late. And the question that I have for you here, and this is more general than it is anything aimed at Meyer or the Panthers or anything like that.
Chargers,
he was good with that was the thing. He was good with the Chargers when he had people, and he went to the Panthers. He didn't have people, and he wasn't any good. That's what I want to ask you about. Is just I realize this is kind of self-evident that the players make the process, but at the same time, how much difference can and does a coach make with the offensive line?
It could,
better or worse.
It could mean a lot to the group. Number one, everybody in that room is going to be relatively new or new to starting and a new scheme officially. New direction as far as who's going to be calling the plays. Everything is new. So him going to get Pat Meyer, I think, fits this. You have Matt Canada that's got his guy. Not necessarily maybe his pick, but he at least, I think, had a say-so in what direction he wanted to go in and what guy he needed.
He'd have to.
The one thing that you want in this league as far as you're building your staff is people that you can trust. I think the fact that, Surratt was there and Clem was there already and the interim guy, I forget his name again, Morgan. He was already there, and you just basically had Canada had to work with the pieces he's given. Now you've seen a new wide receiver coach. You've seen, a new offensive line coach come in. These are people that at least saying, Canada was there, so I got to work to please Canada. So that in itself may say to the team, whatever direction he's getting is coming directly from me. To whereas Clem or Sean Surratt were probably living off the last tenure, doing things their way.
This is how we do it.
This is how we've done it. So adjust to what I got going on. Now you got a full offseason of Matt Canada saying, hey, look, Pat, this is how I want you to coach these guys up and teach them. Your technique is your technique, but I need them to be doing these things. So whereas you may have had Clem or, Sean Surratt saying, well, it's better if we do this way. So it may have been a knocking of heads when it come down to decision making. And also is this, Canada came to the NFL from college, meaning Clem and Sean Surratt and Morgan had been in the NFL for a long time. Now Canada's got a little bit of weight underneath him. He's got the command of the coach and the reassurance of Coach Tomlin because he brought him back this year when everybody thought that the Matt Canada offense wasn't that great. A hit dog is gonna holler, huh? Point to yourself on that one.
Right. So, my arm is way up.
You raise your hand. So, but now he's got some of his guys. I'd like to think that the offense may flow a little bit better. At least they're on the same page and they can say, this is my team. You know how it is going into a room and you the new guy and you're trying to figure out, who do I talk to? What do I do in these situations? That's what I'm looking for out of them. Now, as far as Pat Meyer's, coaching, how he's going to teach these kids, these young guys.
Teach is the word. Moan, I'm gonna jump in and say
Go ahead.
when I'm in Latrobe, but this is whatever it was 3 years ago or whatever, and I'm watching Mike Munchak 4 years ago, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Mike Munchak in that near end zone where you guys would always work out on Chuck Noll
Deep in the far corner,
nice and close to the reporters, by the way, so we could see and hear everything, including when you messed up. And Munchak is talking to you and to Marquise Pouncey and to David DeCastro and Alejandro Villanueva, not in a condescending way, but in a way that was like you were rookies. He was teaching guys who really probably didn't need a whole lot of firsthand instruction.
Yep.
But he kept showing you things, and not as reminders either. They were new things you could tell.
They were, and that's the thing I've always admired about Munch is he always taught this. The basics are the basics, and we're going to do those well. If there's something I've seen on film, we're going to adjust to that, and we're going to bring it out here on the field so that we can teach you how to do it the correct way. Sometimes I think guys get players, and I hate this, even at the youth level. They get players and think everybody's supposed to do the same thing. You don't teach stuff the way you need to, and because of that, you cause failure to guys that aren't fit for what you're trying to teach them. So because of that, that's one thing I'll say to Pat Meyer in that group. Understand your personnel and how you're going to go about teaching those guys day in and day out, because you say what you want to, there is an expectation to that group, specifically from our past. Like, you better be on top of your game. You better make sure these guys protect whatever quarterback is going to be at center, and this offense has got to look, I'd say 5 times better than what it looked last year. Whatever that's going to be. It better
look 5X.
I'll tell you this. They better not go into a game. We're talking about teaching in a mindset to where it's 3rd and 1 and they're not under center or pushing people off the ball. That can't fly. There needs to be a part of this team this year of young guys that take a stance and say, look, we might not be perfect, but we're going to whoop some you-know-what, okay? That has to be taught this year. There has to be an emphasis on all of those things, DK, because they're just so young. And I'm hoping Pat Meyer's a guy.
This is where, since I'm talking to the previous left guard, I can point to Kevin Dotson and say, do you remember when Dotson was first put out on the field? What was he doing?
Mauling.
Boom.
Yeah, downhill.
Okay, and everything was downhill and straightforward. And I'd like to think that that was at least in part due to the fact that he wasn't told to do any kind of trickery or whatever. He was just told, you are a big, bad man.
Yeah.
Just go out there and kill people, eat them. And he did, and he ate them.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any whatever to it. The same thing goes with Chooks to an extent, because Chooks is so big, so raw. Just let him go. Okay?
Let him go.
And that, especially when you have a young group, and they didn't do that. They had them hesitating and hemming and hawing and lefting and righting and everything.
No.
It's just like, no.
I know. And I hate it for them. If I can just be transparent, I talked to a few guys in that room, and I asked them, what are y'all doing? And they would tell me, I don't know. Offensively. That's not okay. For a young group, like even back to Coach Kugler when I was early in the league playing, like that mindset you said about Kevin Dotson to just go whoop somebody's ass, like that's what he used to tell us a lot. Like, it's a street fight. Like, sometimes the technique ain't just gonna do it. You just got to go beat a man, and that's what this group should be doing. And then notice the transition with us.
Find a guy.
The transition from us when we were just trying to take down the sack total, get a good rushing game, and then it became, oh, those guys are finesse guys now. They got a system. You remember, you saw the transition.
You guys reached your finesse phase.
Yeah, but you had to whoop a whole lot of tail, DK, to make it to that point.
Make it to the finesse phase.
Make it to the finesse phase. So, man, my second year specifically, I'll never forget. It was in a preseason game, and it was like fight or flight, Mon. Which one you gonna do? You better go prove that you at least belong on this field. I don't care what it is. I received death threats from Philadelphia, okay? in a game, I was taught, look, it was in a preseason game. I got fined like $20,000, okay? We're running downfield, and they had our running back hemmed up on their sideline. And I'll never forget, my wife got on me at the time, too. I ran down the field, and I just took off and just dove at a dude to clean him up off the pile. Illegal as hell, okay?
Oh, yeah, filthy.
Illegal as hell. I remember the linebacker, I cleaned him up, like launched at him. But you know what I was saying to the coach, and Coach Cougs told me this after the fact. I appreciate your fight. Your fine is going to be in your locker room real soon.
And we're not helping you with it. But here's the
envelope. I appreciate your fight. I never forget, it was $5,000 each check that I had to take out because I wasn't making that much. It's like, we can't take your whole check, Ramon. We'll take 5 of it. But that was the mindset to get to that next point. Then I became a starter. And then when Munch came in, he kind of polished it up a little bit more. And it's like, okay, this is how we play the game. And that's what I'm hoping, because this group is so young. If Zach is out there, if I don't know what's going on with his situation. If Dotson is out there, I don't know if they're going to switch Kendrick Green around. I don't know what's going to happen at right guard. I don't know if they're going to sign Chooks back. I've been in communication with him a little bit, as far as free agency goes, and you got to see what's going to happen. And I think Canada and Tomlin and bringing in their guy at offensive line, I think it could be good if he teaches them that mindset first, DK.
That's first before, and then of course that has to be accompanied by
the scheme,
elite,
man.
Individualized. Also, what I was going to say here is individualized instruction, because that's what you were talking about, that player-centric mindset instead of one size fits all. Right. Because they might not. They're going to have different strengths. You just look at them, and they look different. Kendrick Green looks like he's built different from Dan Moore, who's more of a prototype offensive line. And then there's, again, Dotson, who's just this, this beast. And it's just you work with each one of them. And I'll tell you that I just like the fact that, for the first time in a while, they did go outside. They did bring in somebody.
They did.
Instead of just walking down the office and pulling up the next guy at the next cubicle. They did something here, and, he's got experience. He's got background. He's had some successes, and as I mentioned, some failures. So we'll see how Pat Meyer
And we've said all this to say it could be a struggle year, but I think all of us, to a person, at least in my recent history being with the team, Pittsburgh always finds a way to compete.
Finds a way. I can't imagine some disastrous season. I don't even know what it looks like.
It wouldn't even feel right for the league. Like, whatever it is, I don't think it'll be long-lived. It'll just be like, okay, we needed a hard reset, which is what we said would happen whenever Ben bowed out.
Right, one of those Colts type years. You know what I'm talking about, where the Colts would win the Super Bowl and then they go 1-15 the next year, and then they'd be right back the year after that.
And that's what you want. Everybody's due one. Just don't be Jacksonville's, Cleveland, or Cincinnati for the years before now.
That's it.
Or the Browns.
That's it. Get in all the obligatory AFC North shots before the credits roll. All right, Moan, let's do it again next week.
No doubt, man. I'm ready.